looking at myself and it's like, oh my God, I hate my voice. I hate my, my nose or whatever. But I thought, you know what, I'm just going to go out there, say how I feel, give a few tips, and it will be deleted in 24 hours. So even if it's the worst thing, it's not going to be there forever.
Hi, and welcome back to the Kelly Lundberg Podcast. I'm your host, business mentor, personal brand and style expert on a personal mission to inspire a minimum of 5 people a day to just take action, do something different, or just show up as the person they aspire to be because of something that maybe they've heard in this podcast or seen or just learned. I really want to know. So if you're one of my 5 a day, yay, congratulations. Drop me a review here on this podcast or subscribe to it. Both, that would be amazing. And come and say hi on Instagram. I'd love to meet you and I reply back to all my DMs that come in. In this episode, I talked to Maria Harisifanis, a London-based entrepreneur, best-selling author, TV personality and podcaster. And at the end of last year, she was out visiting Dubai, where I got the chance to speak to her about some of her latest collections from Rhode Isle and her second book, How to Make It Happen, which is a 10-step guide to motivating yourself and making your dreams a reality. So Maria is known in the industry as not only a complete advocate for entrepreneurs, but someone who really inspires and encourages people to be the best that they can be, to achieve their goals and dreams. So again, back to that 5 a day, if something just clicks with you today, we really want to know. I recall meeting Maria years ago in Dubai, and I think her products had just launched in the region, and she was just so lovely and so stylish, and let me tell you, nothing has changed. So let's get going to the content. Let's hear what she has to say in this episode. So thanks, Maria, for joining us on today's show. It's great to have you here.
I am so excited after meeting you face to face in Dubai recently. I'm just excited that we're doing this right now.
So how was your trip to Dubai?
Oh, it was such a joy just getting out of London. We were in lockdown and just being in Dubai and feel free and a beautiful weather and just meeting with everyone and everyone's dressed up. Dubai is one of my favorite places. So yeah, it was a little light of sunshine in a crazy winter here in the UK. So yeah, all good.
How do you find the sort of market? I mean, when you travel around different places in terms of how people embrace your products, is Dubai market different to the UK environment, or is it pretty much the same? Everyone who loves your brand and your products all have the same sort of vibe?
You know what? I think that when it comes to skincare and everyone pretty much these days has the same concerns. We're all wearing masks. So yeah. I was talking a lot about our VC pads that are the number one product to get rid of breakouts when you're wearing masks. Then, we talked a lot about the Banana Lowlighter, which is an under eye highlighter for skin tones, which is great when we're all on Zoom and on our cameras all the time. So I think, that every market has its different characteristics, but then at the end of the day, or collectively as a whole world, we're going through very similar challenges. So there are actually a lot of similarities.
It's good. Well, I'm wearing 4 of your products today. I've got on, which you can't see, but I've got on the neck and décolletage cream, with dragon blood, yes. I have my concealer on, I have the low lighter on, and I have lifting oil. Have I gone to OTT, or is that all right?
It's actually, I did a little morning chat today. I was talking about the pink diamond oil, especially when with the hydrated skin in this weather. So you are spot on, Kelly.
Love it, love it, love it. And for those that follow me on social media will know that skincare is really important to me. And I think that's something that my mum, very early on, like in my early 20s, she would always say to me, and I lived overseas from a young age, and she would always say, make sure you wear your SPF and don't sit out in the sun and look after your skin. And in your 20s, I don't know how you were, but in my early 20s, I was like, you don't see the importance because you don't see yourself age. but I always kind of did take care of my skin. And I think that's something so important. How did it work for you? Like, how did you get into skincare?
So I was always passionate about fashion and beauty since I was a little girl. And while I was at uni, I got myself a little internship with 17 magazine back in Greece, where I'm originally from. And I was a beauty writer. I did that for a little bit, but business was also in my mind. So I started business and I had some student loans I had to pay. So I ended up finding a job in banking, which brought me to London. And at the beginning, it was exciting and fascinating, but it was I wasn't passionate about it. And a couple of years into it, I was called in the boardroom and I got fired. And it was devastating because I was young and it was my first proper job. But it was the catalyst that I needed to realize what my passion was. And that's when I started thinking, oh, this may be the time for me to start my own business.
Love that. And I think so many people kind of look at a moment where you're fired or you lose your job or something as the worst moment that they could ever have. But it's just how you reposition it. And you repositioned it now into a massive empire. So really interesting to hear the backstory and the journey there. One of the questions that I wanted to ask is actually not about skincare, but it is about your book. And I'm really curious to know what chose you or what made you choose to write a book and, kind of come away from the skincare, but write the book. Because I've written a book as well and I understand why I wrote it. And I'm just curious to see your side to it.
So just to continue the story a little bit, which will bring us to the book at the end, is
perfect.
I had this idea. I saw a gap in the market for a serious skincare range that would offer targeted treatments to specific skin concerns. I tried to get investment. I wasn't able to. So I started really small from a back room at home using credit cards and loans and sort of having a side job on the side just to pay my bills. Anyway, I started really small. I was a one-woman show, and slowly it became what it is today. But, throughout the journey, whether that was launching the snake serum, that's the single product that put Rodial on the map, or then following with the dragon's blood, or going through some challenges and teething problems when you are running a business and growing and you haven't managed the business of that size before. So everything is a learning experience. And, here I am 18 years later, and people on social media were connecting with me saying, oh, Maria, oh my God, I've heard about you. You are an overnight success. And how do you do that? And the title of the book, How to Be an Overnight Success, is actually ironic because it took me, as you can imagine, it took me 18 years to be where I am today. And what I wanted to do with this book is give encouragement, especially to the young generation who has dreams and wants to start a business or go freelance or be an influencer and all that. And just take them through my journey and explain to them that you can be successful. And these are some of the steps that you can follow to drive your business, your career. However, there will be ups and downs. The success is not straightforward and it does take a long time. So the message of the book is a positive message for anyone who has started something and within a few months they're not seeing the results, they're ready to give up. And the message is, just keep on doing this, give yourself time and you will become successful. So this is why I wrote the book.
Love it. And then you didn't just write one, you wrote two. So and quite quickly. So how did that come? Did you feel that there was questions that were unanswered or more people were asking questions, or it was just really natural to write a second?
Yeah, so it was the follow-up questions that I was getting. So I went through my journey and how I built Rodial from nothing to what it is today and all the different steps. But then I was getting a lot of messages from people who weren't necessarily running a business, but wanted something that would motivate them to follow the dreams, whatever these dreams are, whether it was reach the top of their career or change careers or be someone who's been a mom for years and wants to do something for themselves after a point. So I felt that I needed to come up with a version of my book that's more relevant to anyone out there outside running a business, and to anyone, women or men, who want to find motivation in their life. So the sort of the basis of the second book is more wide than the first book. That's a little bit more about business.
Yeah. So off that then, talking about, you inspiring or helping and motivate other people, what keeps you motivated on, hard days? Because we all have them in business. Yeah. What keeps you going?
Yeah, so it's as you say, we all have good and bad days, and it doesn't matter at whatever level you are, how long you've been doing what you've been doing, whether you've done it for a year or 20 years, there's still issues and challenges. And there's days that are super creative and super fulfilling, and days that it feels like, you're pulling teeth all day long. I actually had one of those yesterday, but we're out of it. So there's a couple of things that I do. One is I always know that when I have a bad day, there's always a good day waiting for me around the corner. It may not be the next day. It may be 2 or 3 days later, but statistically, there's always a better day coming. So I have that in the back of my mind. But then what I like to do every morning is, and I'm very big about this, I spoke to both my books and to make it happen, my second book as well, I have a whole chapter where I talk about my morning routine. And I find that when you are working for yourself in whatever capacity, you have to motivate yourself. You're not going to go to an office and someone's going to say, oh, these are the 10 things you need to do today. You do them, then it's well done, and you have a productive and successful day. When you work for yourself, you have to put yourself in the mindset of what do you need to achieve for the day. So I wake up every morning and I just kind of see, how do I feel? I check with myself. It could be through meditation, or it could be just sort of waking up and being honest. How do I feel? And then whatever I need to do to put me in that mindset, it may be that I have a difficult meeting coming up. So I may go and do an affirmation, listen to an affirmations pod, where it sort of gives me some positive messages for the day. I may listen to my horoscope and just get some guidance from above. I may listen to, if I'm feeling really businessy and I want to get into a motivational mode, I may read a few pages from a motivational book, or I may listen to a motivational podcast. So, or on days that I feel I want to be creative, I may just scroll down Pinterest and sort of do a vision board. So I don't have a specific schedule. On Mondays, I do this. On Tuesdays, I do that. But every morning, I do check with myself, and I find the early hours of the day put me in that mindset of what do I want to achieve for the day.
Oh, it's so good. And I cannot agree more. And when I'm mentoring those that are, maybe going through sort of building their personal brand and their business, one of the things that I really get them to hone into is their morning routine, because that sets you up for the day. I'm curious to know, what kind of motivational podcast would you go to? Any resources that you'd like to share with anyone?
So, I mean, obviously, I love your podcast too.
Thank you.
I have also my own podcast. I do post a few times a year, so it's not a regular weekly podcast. It's called Overnight Success, and the content is evergreen. In terms of the podcast that I listen to, I recently started listening to the Affirmation Pod, which is a podcast that has daily episodes that would lead you throughout the day. So every podcast has a theme. So it's an affirmation if you are you're dreading the day, or an affirmation if you're feeling burned out. So, and again, it has a full catalog of the different options. So if I feel I need a little bit of a boost, I think, what do I need right now? And go through their catalog and just listen to one of them. So I listen, that's sort of my latest thing. And then I go on YouTube and it's, I search, I don't have a specific one, but I find also YouTube is a great platform. Whatever's in your mind, you search it and they come up with beautiful things. I love Gary Vee. Sometimes I listen to his podcast. Yeah, he's very cool. But recently I've been getting a lot of motivation from TikTok. I follow him on TikTok and I find his 15-second clips that sometimes that's all I need. if I don't have time to listen to a proper podcast. So, yeah.
But that's the whole thing, is sometimes it is just 15 seconds. And if people are listening to this just now and they're thinking, oh, but I don't have time to, have that routine. Because I know in your book you talk about, your morning routine can take anywhere between an hour and 2 hours, which if you're adding exercise into it and what have you, it can take that long, but it can also be done much quicker. Like you said, 15 seconds, listening to Gary Vee on
TikTok. Yeah, absolutely.
That's all you need to get started. I find podcasts a great resource for me because it's that sort of, they say you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And, when you're working from home, which many of us are at the moment, going, out for a walk and having someone in your ear that's kind of telling you their story, I just find it hugely inspiring.
Absolutely.
So one of the other aspects that I really wanted to talk about with you in particular, because I think you are absolutely nailing this aspect in business, is how you're building your personal brand. So, so many people and CEOs within businesses sort of, use their business and hide behind it. And they don't really step out and stand out as the person behind it because they're scared. They don't want to become too aligned with it, or for whatever reason that they have for it. Did you consciously make a decision to develop your personal brand, or was it something that just came organically? Like, how did that all happen for you?
It all happened with social media, and it wasn't even planned. So back in the day, when we started with Twitter, with Instagram, and I have to say I was a late adopter. Yeah. I set up an account, and we did have the brand account at Rodial Beauty. But I thought, every time there's a new platform, every time there's something new, I need to personally play with it and figure it out. So I thought, I'll set my own account. It's at Mrs. Rodial, and I'll start being creative on it and try a few different things. It's not going to be a business account. So I'm going to just post whatever I feel like posting. And I started experimenting with sharing a few things from behind the scenes, from Rodial, from my life. I mean, back in the day, we were doing a lot of press trips, and I was sharing a lot of that, a lot of events. And so for me, it was more of a creative outlet to just tell my story and also have fun with it. So it wasn't planned, there wasn't an agenda, and there wasn't this is what you post on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It was, I'm just going to share what I feel like it. I love fashion too. And when I want to escape, fashion is my escape. So naturally, I started posting some fashion pictures of what I was wearing and I was excited about, or a pair of shoes I was excited. So it kind of all came in quite organic. There wasn't a plan to say, this is what I'm going to do to build a personal brand. And then over the years, and I've been on Instagram for about 10 years now. So a lot of people related to that and started looking at my profile, getting to know about the Rodial products. And that's how it started. And what's interesting is that I never really pushed product through my Instagram. It was more about, this is my inspirational board. But then during lockdown, something changed, and I wasn't able to go to events or do book signings or connect with people or go to stores. So I thought, I'm just going to start talking on Instagram. I'm going to do stories. And as everyone, I'm looking at myself and it's like, oh my God, I hate my voice. I hate my, my nose or whatever. But I thought, I'm just going to go out there, say how I feel, give a few tips, and it will be deleted in 24 hours. So even if it's the worst thing, it's not going to be there forever. So during lockdown, I started being a lot more present and a lot more connected and talking about product that I didn't used to do before because I was super self-conscious. And that kind of, it took me in a new journey over the last 9 months that I now do a lot more beauty and a lot more tutorials. And actually, the last 9 months, I'm more connected to my business than I ever was. So it's an evolution. It's an evolution. It was never a plan. And I feel that at the end of the day, for someone to develop a personal brand, there needs to be an authenticity behind it. And I know this is a word that a lot of people use as a token, but it's kind of, you can't really have an agenda. You can't necessarily plan it too much. You just have to be real. This is who I am. And the right people will be there and be excited by you and what you do. So yeah, that's been my journey.
Yeah. And I, was looking at you at sort of 800,000 plus. Have you seen it grow more, your platform, since you've been more presence over the past 9 months, or is it just still growing organically? Do you think there's been a direct correlation there?
Over the years, you gain some followers and you lose some followers, because as sort of I move towards more skincare and doing more beauty, potentially some of the followers who were following me purely for fashion, that I don't do fashion in every single post, may thought, well, I didn't follow her for that. So I think it's always a balance. But then at the end of the day, I think with all the social media, it's great to share our journey with our followers and not be, you can't be the exact same person now than you were 2-3 years ago. Things have changed, and I feel it's exciting to share that journey with your followers.
Absolutely. And sorry to interrupt you. You said a really important word, and it was evolution. And you are constantly evolving. And this is something that, again, through mentoring, through speaking to women, what I see that they're scared with to do their first post, because they're like, I don't know if I want to do this forever. And the whole thing is you start, but it just keeps evolving. So don't be attached to what you start with, because it will grow and it will change, and so will you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So on that sort of personal brand piece there, and how you'd moved on sort of social media, did writing a book affect or, grow your awareness as to who you were, and in turn grow your business? Did that affect it?
It's hard to say, especially now that, people don't read books as they used to 10, 20 years ago, when you can go on TikTok and on 15 seconds, someone tells you the whole story. It's books are a harder market right now. Yeah. I wrote my books because I felt I needed to share something. I am aware that the audience is relatively limited. Now, has it helped with my brand? I think that it brought awareness to certain people who wanted to start a business or go freelance. They didn't know where to go with it, and they just found some guidance from my books. And I'm just happy to help out now, whether that helped increase my sales or my Instagram followers or my TikTok followers. I don't really know. It's hard to quantify that. Yeah. But, at the end of the day, whatever you do, if it gives you a positive feeling that you've done something great and you get great feedback, I'm sure there is a benefit at the end of the day, but it's just hard to quantify.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people do think about from the perspective of, writing a book 20 years ago was a way to make money, in effect. Whereas, writing a book now is like something that you want to do to help people. It's a credibility factor. It shares your story, but it's certainly not something where you're like, and the days of like J.K. Rowling and being the next, 10 books with the New York Times bestseller for 15 years, they're few and far between now.
Yeah, definitely.
Who comes to mind when we're talking about, personal brands? Is there anyone that you've dealt with in business that you think, do you know what, they've got a really great personal brand?
What's interesting, and I say this in all of my books, I don't like to compare myself to others, especially when it comes to the beauty industry, because comparison can drive you crazy. So I do not follow any other beauty brands, any other beauty founders. I just want to follow my own lane and not be distracted or affected by what everyone else does. I mean, what my idols are sort of outside our business altogether. So, I've read a lot of books on Steve Jobs, and sort of I'm fascinated on how he created sort of the biggest tech company ever known, and how could he differentiate what he was doing to everything else. And I kind of love his philosophy, and I love the simplicity of what he's done. So, for me, inspiration comes from very different sectors. I just can't sort of sit down and look at other beauty brands. I have to move away from my industry altogether. So, yeah, anything on Steve Jobs I've watched, I've read, and sort of people at that level really inspire me.
I think that's really interesting as well, because people do actually think that, in their industry, at the end of the day, comparison is the thief of joy anyway. So I'm totally with you on that front. But I do think what you learn from other niches, other industries can help you even more than just the industry you're in, because you can bring something different to what it is you're doing.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, I thought we would kind of wrap up here. I've really enjoyed chatting, and I don't want to take too much more of your time, but you have 3 golden rules that I had read in your book about set your goals and plot your trajectory and make it happen. And in theory, I love it, but I feel that a lot of people hold themselves back. They don't set their goals, or, they don't make it happen. Why do you think that is?
It's I talk about this in my second book, Make It Happen, and it's the fear of failure. People are not willing to take the first step because they feel they may fail. And to have to live with themselves after a failure, in their minds can be devastating. But for me, the way I see this is action brings action, and it brings you to the next step. So I'm just going to give you an example. A lot of people have been talking to me about TikTok, and that's the next platform. You need to get on it. And I was sort of blanking it out and saying, no way, I'm never going to get on that. And then during the summer, we all had a little bit more time. I started looking at it and searching. And I said, you know what? I'm not really following it 100%. I don't know what is going on, but I am going to start posting. And I posted the first video in July, and it got sort of 10 views and 2 likes. One was mine. And then a few weeks later, I'm posting another, and they were horrible, my first videos. But every time I posted, it may not have been a successful TikTok, but it made me think through this. So what was about this TikTok that wasn't successful? Let me look at it. Was it the content? Was it the punchline? Was it the timing that I posted it? Was it the narrative? What was it that didn't work? So then the next one was slightly better, and maybe got 15 views and 3 likes. And that went on for a while. And after 4 or 5 months, I'm in a much better place. I feel that I do have a better grasp of it. Am I perfect? I am not, but I am much better than I was a few months ago. And for me, that kind of, it's the journey that I've gone through my business, that I started without knowing where I was going to go next. And also thinking that when something doesn't go as planned, it's not really failure, it's feedback. So you can take that feedback and move on. And no one's going to sit down and say, oh my God, Maria posted this awful TikTok. It was so bad. I'm never going to talk to her again. Or, she's a failure because of that. No one's going to say that. But I think we all create a very frightening story in our minds.
So true.
And so that, prevents us from taking the first step. So for me, it's like all about take that first step, even if it's not perfect, even if you're not fully prepared, but you've taken that one piece of action that will take you to the next.
Love it. So how can people take action and find you? What are you on TikTok? Where are you on Instagram? How can people learn more about you?
So my handle is the same. So I'm on @Mrs. Rodial on both Instagram and TikTok. And I do daily chats on Instagram, on Instagram stories, where that's kind of my real me. I wake up in the morning and I sort of share what's going on in my day, or a bit of a tutorial. And a lot of people respond back to me. Also, I have a great group on TikTok that we communicate, and it's super motivational as well. So one of those 2 platforms, I'm always there, and I'm always reading the comments. So happy to connect with your followers too from Dubai.
Amazing. And that's something that I acknowledge for, I've been following you, I don't know, for the past 5 or 6 years since you were last out in Dubai. And you comment on everyone's post. If someone says something, you go back to them and you like, or you heart, or you do something. Is that, something that you do? Do you have a team that helps you? Or is it just you're passionate about talking to those that follow you?
I 100% manage the Mrs. Rodial account. The Rodial Beauty is managed by our team. The way that I see this is I read every single comment just because, I want to see the reaction. There may be some interesting feedback. And I want to see, how everyone reacts to what I'm posting. I also like to acknowledge, because if someone has taken a minute out of their day to read what I have and made a comment on it, it is my duty to acknowledge that because, time is of essence. So I acknowledge it, on days that I have a bit more time, I may respond, but I acknowledge it one way or another. Also, sometimes there's an interesting comment on sort of the other day, we had some comments about our shipping rates. I know it's not like super exciting, shipping rates in some countries. So I saw a few of those and went back to my team and said, can we find some better shipping rates for Europe and rest of the world? So we worked on that based on the feedback. And now we have a lot of happy customers who can shop from our site. And if I didn't read those comments, I wouldn't get all this feedback to progress the business and progress what we do to make it more customer friendly. So yeah, you do find some great nuggets in those comments that I don't want to miss.
And you have shared some amazing nuggets today. So thank you so much for your time and sharing your story and a few snippets there that I know people will get inspiration from. I wish you every success and I look forward to seeing you back in Dubai. Hopefully not in another 5 years' time, sooner than that.
Yeah, I hope so. Thanks, Kelly. Thanks for having me.
Take care.
Okay.
Bye.
Take care. Bye. Bye.